Right. I can't. Oh, there you go.
There we go. Now it's recording. Um, yeah, I can start off. So I wanted to kind of set up a quick little training session. So I guess primarily focused at how we can edit the competitor pages. So that could be slash competition, it could be slash competition backslash, I don't know, Bitbucket or any of their competitors. I'm not going to focus too much on the DevOps pages because they were built in the past and I don't know if they're going to be updated. So we're going to focus primarily on these. But I'm going to try and go through it generically so that if there's changes to other pages that need to be made, it's the same steps that apply. Before I jump in, does that sound good with everybody?
That sounds great. Thank you.
Awesome. And yeah, feel free to interject whenever if you have any questions. Um, this is not the same process that I go through when I'm making changes, just because we have the code base set up locally. So I'll try my best to go through. And we also have a new web IDE that we just released. I think it's in beta right now, and so that's gonna throw a wrench in it. But anyways, to get started,
Are
I
you
thought.
gonna so
Oh,
so
sorry.
on that note, because I've been playing around with the new web IDE, are you
Yeah.
showing the process through the new web IDE or the
Yes.
older one?
Yeah, I'll go through the process with the new web IDE. There might be more efficient ways to traverse the web IDE, but this is the way I know from my experience. And you can read the documentation. I'm sure there's tons of it in our docs
Awesome.
to give more information. But to get started, I thought a good example, I noticed on the competition page, there's a typo in secure. So under secure IAC scanning, the C should be capitalized. And so it's such a small thing, but it is something that probably should be updated. And so I'm going to kind of walk through on how we can edit this. And so normally you typically you go to the page that you want to make the edit on. And at the very bottom in the footer, you'll notice there's something called edit in web IDE. And so if you click that link, it'll open our brand new web IDE, and it should bring you to the content file of the page that you're trying to make the edit on. Unfortunately, sometimes it doesn't always work. Like it might bring you to this get started page, or it might bring you nowhere. And so if you want to try and find the page you're looking for, generally it's kind of semantic. In this case, it's not really, it's called index. But you can traverse on the left-hand side here. There's kind of a file system navigator, file explorer. And so under content is where all the content lives. And in this case, we're in competition. And then you'll see that here's the Argo one, the Atlassian, all these kind of the templates or content files for these competitors. And in this case, index. Index generally refers to like the home page or like the base page of that section. So for competition, the slash competition would be referenced as index. And so hopefully it brings you here. If not, you'll have to traverse here. And we're going to look for that edit. I already forgot what we're going to update. Is it IAC, I believe? So the easiest way I find to find content that I want to edit on these big pages is to search. And so Command F, usually if you have the software locally, you'll have like a file and you can like file search or file find, but you'll have to use the commands just because I don't think you can traverse it another way. And so if you hit Command F, it'll bring up at the top here a search bar. You can look for IAC because that's what I want to edit. And I noticed here it is, label, IAC scanning. And so there's a lowercase. I'm going to make the change to uppercase, and I'm going to hit Command S to save. Normally, again, there'd be file save, but in the web editor, there's no command or no file save. We also have things like the progress bars or the coverage, whatever you want to call it. You'll notice that in, let me go to the competition page. Those will be like the progress bars. So you'll see like this one's 75, this one's 50, 0. And just by editing these numbers for code quality, whatever, you can update those numbers if you wish. And so once you've made a change and hit Command S to save, you'll notice on the left-hand side, a purple icon appears. And so this icon kind of denotes source control. And so when you look at it, it says that we made one change. We've made one change to index.yaml. We made a modification. And so you can add a commit message if you like. It's not required, but it is recommended. And the commit message is just a brief description of what you changed. So I'll just say fix typo to IAC. And then I'm going to commit and push. And so, oh, my Zoom thing popped up. There we go. So it's commit to a new branch. In this case, it is a new branch. So a branch is essentially just a deviation of production or of the main branch that we're working off of. And this deviation is just going to house the changes temporarily until we're ready to merge that back into the main branch. So in this case, we're going to create a new branch. I'm going to hit yes. And then,
So can I ask you a
yeah,
quick question?
sure.
Had we done the existing branch, what would the impact have been?
Yeah, I'll walk through that after. So
Okay.
once I create the merge request, then I'll go in and edit that merge request as if someone were to suggest an edit. So for now,
Okay.
I'm just going to run through creating it, and then I'll show that one after. But in this case, you can name the branch if you'd like. I recommend just hitting enter and using the the branch that it generates for you. It's just a kind of unique ID. So main patch 84EA doesn't really matter. Um, Click confirm. And at the bottom right, you'll see here success. Your changes have been committed. And so if you go to create MR, we're going to now create a merge request with those changes. And so based on, where these changes live, you're going to have a different template to use, or depending on the change you made. Like for this case, it's just a typo. And so the approval and the template would just be a one minor. Anyway, you can read through the template and figure out what kind of permissions or approvals you need for the change you're making. And so for this one, the title, I'm just going to say fix, oops, typo to IC and slash petition. You can fill this out. I'm not going to fill it out just for the sake of time. But yeah, follow the template preferably. And then assignee is the person that made the change. So in this case, it was me. And then the reviewer, I'll add, say, Dave. And then I'm going to create the merge request. And so this is like any other merge request you've seen. It shows 0, but there actually is a change. I think it's just a bug. And you'll notice that we made that typo change. So from lowercase IAC to capital C. And now it's ready for review. Dave, you can come in and say, hey, actually, I want it to be all uppercase, so the A uppercase as well. And in this case, we can edit the existing changes we made. So the easiest way I found to edit is to go to the merge request, click the code dropdown, and say open in Web IDE. And like I mentioned earlier, it doesn't always open the file that you want. So you'll have to navigate either through Command P to search, or through the left-hand side under content is where all our content exists. This is in competition. And then like we said, it was in the index.yaml file. And so here we can search for that IAC. And here it is. And let's just say this time we want it to be all capitalized. We hit Command S to save it. And you'll see that the change, like before, has popped up on the left-hand side. Commit message, addressing feedback. Commit and push. And in this case, instead of yes committing to a new branch, we're going to hit no and use the current branch that we're on. So this is the branch that we've already created. And so this is probably going to happen a lot when you're going back and forth with reviewers and maybe content changes, or someone else wants to hop on someone else's merge request and make changes. So you hit no, use the current branch. This will pop up at the bottom, but instead of saying like, here's your new MR, it'll say you can go back to the existing MR. And you'll notice now if we go to changes, it'll have the new recent changes of capital IAC. So hopefully, I think that covered kind of the generic use case. So obviously, things are going to be more complicated. If you want to add a new competitor page, it adds more complexity, but I don't think I'm going to cover all that in this video. If anyone has any questions, feel free to ask them and maybe I can answer.
That was super straightforward. And because it was so straightforward, I do want to ask, like, if I wanted to create a new page that lives within, let's say, the competition part of the website or a different part of the website, how do you go about doing that?
Yeah, it would depend on the page you're trying to create. I can use maybe a new competitor page as an example here. So depending on how you traverse the web IDE, you can just go to like about.gitlab.com, and I'm going to go to web IDE. So in this case, I would look on the left-hand side, go to content, under competition, and then here we have a template. And so this template is used for all the competition pages. And so if you open up the template, it actually shows you, competitor template. It shows you all the fields that are required to create this new competitor page, and then a description of what is expected. You can also use an existing page as a reference. So if you want to use like Circle CI, you could use this as a reference. One thing I find super helpful in the web IDE is you can actually minimize kind of like folder structures or lists. So for example, we're listing off all the features here. You can minimize all the features to make it more digestible and easier to edit. And so in this case, if I were to add a new competition page, I'm pretty sure you can just add right click and say new file, and then I don't know, new competitor. But I can't type YAML to try and match the rest of them. And then I would just copy over the template into the new competitor one. I would fill it out, save it, and then I would add it, commit and push, merge, all that I mentioned earlier. And then that should spawn up a new page for the new competitor.
Is there a workflow as part of this where you would you would create the new page and then you would essentially copy over an existing page just so the template is there and the format is there, and then
Yeah,
you just like replace the content with whatever the new competitor is.
yeah, that works too. I think that's what Joe did when Joe made his new ones. He kind of referenced existing pages. Um, but yeah, you could for sure do that. Just copy the Bitbucket one, copy it over, and then you could paste it in, and then just make edits too instead of Bitbucket. This would be new name, and then coverage. We use the term coverage when we're talking about those progress bars. We can change it if desired to have common kind of terminology. So that's what we use, and we just use a number, so 75, 50, and I believe they're in 25 increments, so 0, 25, 50, 75, 100. And then these on the left-hand side are kind of the identifier. And so anything before the colon is what we use in code to put that content on the page. So if we were to write in code, I want to add the competitor coverage. How do I reference that? I'd reference it through data, competitor coverage, and then that value would come out. So the left-hand side, you don't have to worry about. It's what we have in code. And what we use is like a unique identifier for the data. We try and make it as semantically correct as possible just because it helps kind of digest the page. So in this case, the competitor would be the name, the coverage would be GitLab coverage, competitor coverage, subheading would be the subheading on the page. It does get complicated, obviously, as you go down deeper, and there's tons of details, there's tons of content on this page, but hopefully it's fairly straightforward.
That's great. Can I ask you one other question, which
Yeah, for
is,
sure.
and maybe it doesn't apply to this page, but it could, and it applies broadly. Say I want to add like an image that the design team creates, but I want to add it to the page. How do you go about doing that?
Yeah, images are a bit tricky. I'm not too sure. Sorry, my voice is going. I'm not too sure how to. Sorry, excuse me.
Oh,
There we
good.
go. Okay, losing my voice here. I was just coming off a cold, so my throat's all scratchy. I'm not too sure how to add an image through the web IDE. Justin, are you aware of how this is possible?
Um, I think it's similar to like how we do it in the everything else. You would have to add the file. Um, but I'm not. Yeah, the way I haven't done it much with the web ID. I've done it like old school way, and then like linking back the direct path.
Okay. Maybe for images for now, we can step in. Anyone on the digital experience team can come in and add it. I know we're fairly particular right now with the format of the images, the sizing of it, just because sometimes we can have like massive images get loaded in. So for now, I'm comfortable saying that we can help with images, but we'll try and come up with an easier solution in the future.
Cool. I love this. This is all really straightforward. So thank you for the training.
No, you're welcome. Hopefully it's useful. And I'm going to add this as well as the documentation that I had in the notes into our handbook. And I didn't want to add it yet, just in case we're going to make edits to this, or if I wanted to add something after this recording. But I'll add it all to the handbook. I'll send out a notification saying that it's been added, and then we can use it as kind of guidance going forward on how to update and edit existing pages or add new pages.
Awesome. Hey, just one last quick question. You mentioned that the DevOps tools page it's like it's just different, and so we're not going to cover it. What about that page makes it more complicated?
Yeah, there's some pages. So what's happened is all the code existed in our old repository, www.gitlab.com. So that's where the handbook is, the blog, release posts, and all of the old marketing material, marketing web pages. And so we've been migrating all the new marketing pages over to this new repository that we have now, the homepage, the pricing page, pretty much all the new ones. But there's some existing DevOps tools pages that were never migrated over. And the issues with some of those is just they're old, they're deprecated, they're a pain in the butt to edit. And so if we're going to make a change to, let me find an example, like about.gitlab.com/ DevOps tools. I think GitHub might be one of them. No, maybe not. I think Jenkins.
I think if you
Yeah, and it's like GitLab versus Jenkins. But Dave,
Uh-huh.
are you just to clarify, are you talking about these older pages, or are you talking about the new DevOps tools page where you
Oh.
set up with the table and the logos?
the new DevOps tools page.
Oh, sorry. Okay, yeah, that can be edited easily through the web IDE.
Okay.
And so you'll see it under competition. It might not be in competition. It might actually be called DevOps tools.
I think I saw it there as DevOps tools. There it is, above.
Oh, here.
Yep, right there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there it is. Perfect. So this is the one that can edit. Sorry, I was thinking of the old the verse pages, the old verse pages.
But in this case, like it brings back up to the to the need for an image. Let's say
Mhm.
the use case is we've determined that GitHub, which was in third position, now should move to first position in in, let's just say, verify. Is that something that you would suggest? Well, let's just work with your team on it, given the complexity in doing it.
For these,
It was
oh, sorry, Justin, go ahead.
I was gonna say, like, if you're going to just rearrange logos on the page based upon like what we currently have, that could be done 3-in-1. There's an array of the list of them that you can kind of see, like the JFrog, Nexus, Unsuma, or GitLab. Those can just be rearranged right there, and it will swap the order. If we're talking to add a net new, we would want to actually we would probably need to make that change. Yeah, we need add the icon and make the change. With that said, if that's something, if we see, or if your team sees that we need to, there's new players in the game and we need to add more logos and icons more rapidly, then I would suggest that our team come up with a way to make that more self-serve. So you could add a new icon, pop it in there as needed. But I'd say reorganizing, that's something that anyone on the team, your team could reorganize or even swap if because all the logos are there in the system. If GitHub moves, out of package and over to another or another one, or vice versa, anyone move around, any logo that we currently have on this page can be moved. But if we need a net new, we'd probably want to reach out for us to add the logo.
All right, sounds great.
Yeah, but that's true. Yeah, changing the order is just a simple change of left to right, left top, bottom. All right.
Well, thank you both for this training. And so when you get a chance, if you could share the link and passcode to the Zoom, I'll make sure the Directs group gets it, and I'll share it more broadly too. I think this is good training for everybody.
Awesome. Yeah, that sounds good. Thanks a lot for the time, and hopefully this is useful.
It very much is. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.